My name is Ndidi Uwechwe. I am a retired Metropolitan Police Officer, and that means London Police Officer. I came to Nigeria in 2015, a day after Buhari got sworn in, and I came here to sort of keep an eye on my widowed mother and to do farming in my ancestral kingdom in Wani, in Anyoma area of Lower Niger Block. So the Fulani herdsmen destroyed my farm. So I'm a failed farmer. And so that's me. And because of what the Fulani had done to my farm, and being a police officer, I found it shocking. So I began to investigate what's going on. And in so doing, I found out that Nigeria has no constitution, because the 1999 constitution that they operate is a forgery. And I've been an investigator for some years in CID, so I know what a forgery means. It means you don't have whatever that document is supposed to represent. So if, like, you have a motor insurance vehicle certificate and it's a forgery, it means you have no insurance. So because of that, I then found out about Lower Niger Congress, and they were about to, later on that year, because this would be in 2020, let's say February or March, in December of 2020, they declared a constitutional force majeure to terminate that forgery. And I'm a signatory to that constitutional force majeure. In fact, I asked to be a signatory because I wanted to be involved in doing something good, because you have a forgery that you're using. It's a big, big crime. So that's me. Given that the 1999 Constitution is a forgery, you then have some experts who would be lawyers and experts in international law and international relations. They will then do the paperwork that's needed to decommission the forgery. So that would be the self-determination organizations. But when you actually declare a constitutional force majeure to terminate a constitution, it has to be the people who declare it, not organizations, because the United Nations and the world needs to see that the people don't want that constitution, because some people may be stupid and may want to keep a forgery. So that's why it cannot be the organization. It has to be the people themselves saying, hey, look, this is a forgery. It means we have no constitution. We're not going to go on with a make-believe constitution that we didn't make. So that's where NINAS comes in. So what NINAS then does, it is a movement. So it is not an organization, but it is an organized movement. So you've got some experts in the secretariat who guide what the people are to do, but it's a movement. And a movement is a mass of people in their various, in their various groupings, but this mass of people are organized and all seeking the same thing. Now, NINAS is N November, I India, N November, A Alpha, S Sierra. N, the first one, is for Nigerian, I, indigenous, N, nationalities, A, alliance for, and then S, self-determination. So when we terminate that forgery that has been hijacking the sovereignty and the self-determination of the indigenous peoples, and this would be of the Middle Belt and the South, because they are the NINAS, then we would retrieve our inalienable rights to self-determination, to then make the decisions for the way ahead in the future. So that's really what NINAS is about. It's about, look, there's a big crime that has happened. Somebody has imposed on the people a document that they're using to govern the people. And this document that should normally be made by the people was not made by the people, was not agreed by the people. And we are here to do the right thing, get rid of a forgery, to allow we, the people, to determine how they want to live going forward. The difference between what has happened in the past and now is that on the 16th of December 2020, a constitutional force majeure was declared. And whether Buhari's government wants to ignore that, and all the governors and senators, that's up to them. The fact remains that people have to do the right thing. And the right thing is to decommission that forgery. What we can see right now is that there's a lot of chaos, killings, and confusion going on in Nigeria. So the people themselves will come to that realization, and they actually have. A lot more people have actually come to the realization. But what has happened is that, except for a few news outlets like Sahara Reporters, most of them, like Channels TV, what is it, AIT, the mainstream TV channels, they've decided not to report the truth about what's going on in Nigeria. So all they report is about elections. They're not reporting about those seeking to decommission a forgery and about self-determination. But that is on them, because when you are fighting the evil and the criminality of having a constitution, what you do, like what I would do, what I'm doing, is I'm on the right side. Of course, you always have people who will be on the wrong side. But as time goes on, those on the wrong side will find that those on the right side will overcome them. And those, the news agencies and all these people who know that the Constitution is a forgery, they will have to take responsibility for the role they have played in not telling the population the truth, because that's what the media is there for. The media is not there to make money. They're supposed to tell the truth of every side, and while telling the truth, you make your money. But if what they do is they decide to only focus on those who've got the money and the power, what they tell them, and not say the other side, which is like the truth about this constitution, they will have to take responsibility for that. And I'm now speaking as myself, not as a member of NINAS, but I'm not speaking for myself. We should always remember the Nuremberg trials. I'm still reading about it. You had the Nazis who thought that they could overpower everyone. But of course they couldn't. They did a lot of damage, but in the end they could not get to what they wanted to do. And then they had to face that trial. So, it's up to everyone. And I believe that more and more people are hearing about NINAS. And as the poverty will get worse, more and more people will be seeking the solution. Many people are running out of Nigeria. They call it Japa, and they're running out because they know there's something wrong. And those who cannot Japa will be thinking, we need to sort things out. So I feel that the Nigeria that is in people's minds has gone. And there'll be no peace without justice. And the elite may today have their shops and their several cars and the big houses. But when the masses see that they can no longer afford the price of food, medicines, ASU, universities are shut and all these things, they will come after those who should have been the guardians of the society but chose not to. So, I feel deeply, because of what happens in history, that this constitution will be taken down. And we're hoping it will be through the NINAS process, because it's an orderly process that follows international law, and it parallels, it uses the example of South Africa, but it's not exactly the same, but it uses the example of South Africa, where they decommissioned an apartheid constitution that the Black people there did not write. So we want that orderly process. If, however, the powers that be don't want an orderly process, it's going to be one where there's going to be a violent struggle, and then it'll come down that way. And that one will be more chaotic for Nigeria and for West Africa and for all of Africa. The NINAS pathway is the pathway that is orderly, that has least killings, least death, least destruction. But that constitution is not a constitution, so it cannot stay. And those who wrote it, they cannot, you can't allow criminals to win. Somebody went and wrote a document and threw it at the people and said, hey, you're going to be governed by this. And that document steals their resources, keeps them poor and underdeveloped. It is a crime of such a magnitude that, even me, as I spent quite a few years in CIB, it's even more than anything I can think of. And the people who did that cannot believe that they're going to win. They will not. And as the world hears what's going on in Nigeria, that some people foisted on the people a forgery and made the people weak, the world will be also against those who didn't. So this is how I see it. And as I said, we can actually see what's going on with what they call obedience. These are mostly people from the Middle Belt and the South. And it's a revolution. They're saying they don't want the old order. For now, because NINAS has not been on the mainstream news, they've not heard so much about it. And that's been deliberate for NINAS not to be on the mainstream news, and for NGOs and CSOs not to talk about NINAS because they all know about it. So these people, the PVC warriors plus the obedient, they want change. They want everything about Nigeria to vanish, and I don't blame them because Nigeria is not working, and they want something new. Now, they are on the wrong track, though, because they should actually be looking at the foundation of Nigeria, because it's the foundation that's wrong. So it's not changing the person who's going to be in charge of Nigeria that's going to make a difference, because they're still going to be using that forgery to govern by. In fact, they'll swear an oath to govern by it. So that those young people, and some of them may perhaps not be so young, who are following mostly P2B for the Middle Belt and the South, when they find out that what they're hoping for, he cannot deliver, well, the anger they may pour on him. And then they will also turn to NINAS, the movement that will give them what they need.